Hey guys, Nuan the Movie Slinger here with a list of 2018 movies. Now this is not my favorites list, it's not my top 10 best movies of 2018. Everybody makes those lists and I wanted to do something different this time. So you're not gonna hear me talk about Avengers Infinity War or Mission Impossible Fallout. This list is made up of movies that surprised me in some way. Surprised me in terms of the quality of the movie, where I didn't expect it to be good, or surprised me with creative ways of storytelling or some interesting new concept that I haven't thought of before. These movies may not be what's popular or cool this year. They may not be everyone's cup of tea, and some of them do have problems. But these movies I think are important, and I'm really glad that they got made and I was lucky enough to watch them. So let's get started. So first up, we got A Quiet Place. This movie tells the story about a family that's trying to survive in a world that has been overrun by monsters that kill anything that makes sound. Now that's a great narrative hook. You make a sound, you die. It's very simple for the audience to understand and also allows for some really creative ways of storytelling. It's scary because sound plays a big role in our lives and it's our primary method of communication. Take that away and these characters have to go to very extreme lengths to stay alive, like using sand walking paths or using sign language. And the audience is constantly on edge because we don't know when somebody might accidentally make a sound and attract the monsters. And that's what this movie excels at, creating these sequences of nail-biting suspense and intensity as the monsters hunt down the family. Both John Krasinski and Emily Blunt give really powerful, emotional performances. The kids are quite good too. Many actors have successfully transitioned from actor to director, but you never really know just how good the transition would be until you see it. This is not John Krasinski's first film, it's actually his third one, and I guess the third time is the charm because not only did he direct a great horror movie, he also gave one of his best performances ever. If you're a fan of monster movies or survival horror, you have to watch A Quiet Place. Number 2, Annihilation. The story follows Lena, played by Natalie Portman, who is part of a military expedition sent in to investigate the Shimmer, which is like this bubble. No one knows where it came from or why it exists. This thing is slowly expanding, so naturally the government is worried and they want to find out more. Most of the people they have sent to investigate have never returned, all except Lena's husband, who is now very sick. So she has personal reasons to try and figure out what happened. While this movie does tackle big sci-fi concepts, it keeps the characters grounded with deeply personal motivations. I really like the team of women that go on this expedition alongside Lena. All of these characters have some personal issue that's feeding into their self-destructive behavior, hence the title Annihilation. Of course, there's so much more going on which I don't want to spoil. The spooky and hauntingly beautiful locations inside the Shimmer did remind me of the zone in the Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl games. The team also encounters a lot of creepy phenomena and remnants of earlier expeditions as they try to piece together what's causing all of this. There's a mutated bear that's hunting them. This thing is way scarier than the one that mauled Leo. And as they get closer to the source of the Shimmer, things get even weirder in a very heart of darkness kind of way. Annihilation is probably the hardest movie on this list to explain, and to be honest, this movie deserves its own video. Now, I don't want to spoil too much, but trust me when I say, if you're a fan of science fiction, you have to watch Annihilation. It's the best sci-fi movie since Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. This was not a big hit and that's understandable. It's not for everyone, but I'm glad this movie exists. I can't wait to see what Alex Garland does next. He's one of the best sci-fi writer-directors working today. Everybody knows he did Ex Machina, but did you know that he also wrote that little gem called Sunshine? Watch that one and definitely watch Annihilation. Number 3, Mandy. I tried to make this list from movies I haven't reviewed. Now, I have reviewed Mandy, but I'm gonna briefly mention it here because I want more people to find this movie and enjoy it the way I did. If you want to see my full review, I'll leave the link in the description, so please go check that out. As for Mandy, well, do you like graphic novel-inspired trippy visuals? Or do you like art house films? And most importantly, do you like Nicolas Cage freaking out? Well, you're gonna get all of that and more in Mandy. It's a simple, good old-fashioned revenge tale as Nicolas Cage goes around dealing death and pain to this repulsive group of cultists who totally deserve it. There's bucket loads of blood, lots of acid, intense action sequences, and a great soundtrack. This movie is heavy metal to the core, and I loved it. Mandy is 92% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which is rare for a Nick Cage movie nowadays. Also, on a side note, screw everyone who thinks Rotten Tomatoes is not important. It's extremely important for small movies like this that don't have an established fan base. In fact, most of the movies on this list were chosen specifically because they were original and not part of Marvel or DC and doesn't have Star Wars in the title. If they do find a mainstream audience, it's mostly because of positive word of mouth by the critics and websites like Rotten Tomatoes. I hope we get more movies from this director, and I hope he makes a Ghost Rider movie with Nick Cage because this team up was a match made in hell and it was perfect. Number 4, Sorry to Bother You. This is a weird one, no doubt about it. It starts off pretty normal though. The main character Cassius Green, played by Lakeith Stanfield, gets a new job as a telemarketer. At first, he's not very good at talking to customers on the phone. Then Danny Glover comes along and advises him to use his white voice because apparently if you sound like a white guy, people listen to you. And it works. Cassius brings in a lot of clients, becomes the rising star of this call center, and gets offered a promotion to work with the big boys who are bringing in the super rich clients. And as Cassius becomes more and more successful, he becomes distant with his old friends and co-workers who are fighting for better pay and benefits. And as the movie goes on, it becomes weirder and weirder. The director himself has called the movie an absurdist dark comedy, and I guess there's no better way to describe it. Boots Riley takes this absurdity to an extreme level, but it's not without purpose. It's done to grab your attention and then present some real-world issues like how big corporations exploit workers, how people get caught by these deceitful employment contracts, working mundane jobs in terrible conditions, and what individuality you have might have to be sacrificed in order to be successful. It even has racial undertones, and we can definitely draw parallels to slavery in some instances. There's some great performances by Stanfield, Tessa Thompson, and also Armie Hammer as this greedy CEO. He was hilarious, and what he's plotting to do, it's so out of this world, it takes you completely by surprise, and I'm pretty sure my mouth was hanging open the whole time he was explaining his plan. Boots Riley could have made a realistic movie, but Sorry to Bother You is more effective because it's not. It's so crazy that I'll never forget it. And here's the other thing. Boots Riley is a musician, and Sorry to Bother You is his first feature film. His first film! I hope he does more in the future. Number 5, Mowgli Legend of the Jungle. Now, I'm not a fan of the 1960s Jungle Book animated movie. Even as a kid, I remember being bored with that movie. And when they announced the remake with Jon Favreau directing, I thought maybe it could make a fan out of me, but it didn't. Sure, it looked good visually and the voice acting was good, but I just really hated that kid. He was so annoying and the story was so dull that I couldn't really get invested in anything that was happening. Now we have the Andy Serkis version, and I loved it. And here's a few reasons why. First of all, I like this kid. Rohan Chand was likable, not annoying, gave a decent performance, and he wasn't stupid. He could carry a torch through the jungle without setting fire to everything. A likable protagonist goes a very long way to keep me invested. Secondly, I really liked the politics and rules of the jungle. All of this stuff was set up very well. We see things like discrimination against some animals. Mowgli and this albino wolf pup are always being bullied by other wolf pups because they are different. There's wolf pack rules, there's certain expectations for Mowgli. The wolf pack leader kept Mowgli around so that maybe one day Mowgli can create some kind of peace between the jungle and the humans, because the humans are slowly encroaching on the jungle. There's a lot of interesting world building here that gives context into character motivations, especially Mowgli's motivations. And that's why this story is so engaging and kept me hooked till the end. And finally, All the animal characters are created using performance capture. So it's not just their voices, we also get to see their facial expressions and body movements. This gives these animal characters a lot more personality than what we've seen before. Christian Bale and Andy Serkis were great as Bagheera and Baloo. I also liked how they were friends and how they helped train the wolf pups. And both of them had excellent chemistry with Mowgli. I believe that these three cared about each other. Benedict Cumberbatch was menacing as Shere Khan, and Cate Blanchett was perfect as Kaa. The movie even starts with a narration by her, and it reminded me so much of The Lord of the Rings. The performance capture was a great idea by Andy Serkis. I tried to go back and watch a few scenes from the Disney version again, and now it just looks awkward. You can see the lips move while the animals talk, but there's no life in them. It just looks weird. Mowgli did it better. So if you're a fan of the original books or you're a fan of the Disney movies, give Mowgli a try. It's not doing the same thing as the last two movies. This movie explores new aspects of Kipling's work. It has a likable protagonist, the performance capture brings these animals to life in a way never seen before, it's charming and it's got a lot of heart. Watch this movie. Number 6, Upgrade. Gray Trace, played by Logan Marshall Green, is traveling in a self-driving car with his wife. The car gets hacked and made to crash. A bunch of mercenaries show up and kill Gray's wife and shoots him in the spine, leaving him paralyzed. Of course, he doesn't stay paralyzed for long since he is friends with his tech company billionaire who says there's an experimental procedure that can allow Gray to walk again. They put this artificial intelligence chip called STEM inside Gray, which gives him control of his paralyzed body. So Gray decides to track down the people that killed his wife, and then he discovers that the AI inside the chip is now talking to him. It calls itself STEM and it grants him abilities that he didn't have before. However, these abilities come at a cost. Upgrade is sort of like the serious sci-fi version of Venom, and just like Venom, the best parts of the movie were the scenes where Gray talks to STEM. There's always the question of how much can he really trust STEM hanging over him. It's riveting stuff and Logan Marshall Green gave an amazing performance. Now, I don't think this movie is perfect. I didn't like the tech billionaire character. His performance wasn't very good and his relationship with Gray and STEM was poorly written. So the setup of the movie was very weak. However, once everything starts moving, it's an intense experience. There's a lot of interesting concepts that are being explored in a very grounded and realistic fashion, such as AI and issues like control, privacy, security, and how much we are willing to compromise in order to make our lives convenient. The action scenes were gory and beautifully shot. There's people that have weapons implanted inside their bodies, kinda like the Deus Ex video games, which is really cool. The leader of the mercenaries was really intimidating, and I wish he played a bigger role. The movie is a treat for cyberpunk fans, so if you're one of them, do give Upgrade a chance. Number 7, Mom and Dad. So if I thought Upgrade had a weak setup, I'd say Mom and Dad has no setup. Sure, it establishes the characters that are being played by Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair. They are parents that live in a suburban home with their 2 kids. It establishes the relationships between these characters very well, along with their marital problems, issues with the kids and all that. The performances were also very strong from all 4 of them. What I meant by no setup was that the event has no explanation. The movie doesn't even try, and strangely, I really didn't mind. Now, I don't want to spoil too much, so all I will say is that something happens that makes people want to murder other people. And when you realize one of the characters has turned and might want to kill somebody, the anticipation of the kill, how they will attempt it, the stalking of the target, all of this creates tension that the director uses brilliantly to keep us hooked. And remember, the 4 main characters are all very likable. We don't want them to get hurt. And then it gets even more interesting when the family members start to turn on each other. There's a lot of slowly rising tension, a build-up of uneasiness that you usually only get in zombie apocalypse movies. That feeling of everything heating up to a boiling point and you know it's all gonna go to hell at some point. This feeling permeates every scene in this movie, and it is relentless in its intensity from start to finish. The last act is like a home invasion movie. Think Home Alone, but it's not a kids movie and Kevin could die. Nick Cage and Selma Blair were amazing. They had good chemistry and were very entertaining to watch. So this year we had two directors that knew how to use Nick Cage. You don't put him in every movie, you put him in movies like Mandy or Mom and Dad. Now I really hope Nick chooses his projects more carefully in the future. It's probably not gonna happen, but whatever. It really helps to go into this movie knowing as little as possible. That's how I watched it and I had a great time. So don't watch any trailers, don't read the plot synopsis, just go watch it. And don't expect an explanation, just enjoy the moment-to-moment action. So that's my list. Now one thing you may have noticed is that most of these movies were original works and not based on existing source materials, and some of them were written and directed by first-time directors. So these are filmmakers that we should be paying more attention to. Now there are a few movies that I missed here. There's movies like Searching, which a lot of people say it's really good, and so if you guys know of any hidden gems in 2018, please let me know in the comment section. I want to thank everyone who subscribed and stuck around. My channel's been up for a whole year and your support means the world to me. Thank you so much, guys. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Movie Slinger out.